Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome in, man. I want to reintroduce myself. I think it's only fair that, every now and again, a couple months, I should do a video that will describe what this channel is about, who I am, and things of that nature. So, my name is Charles Edwards III. I was born here in Houston, Texas, in 5th Ward. My mom and dad had me up until I think I was about 4 years old. They got a divorce. Both my parents were black. And once they got a divorce, I stayed with my mother out here in 5th Ward. And while my dad went off to, continue to work and stuff like that, they ended up having some type of custody battle with me, thus bringing in CPS. So I think about 6, 7, 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, around that age. And I'm living with my mom full time. That experience of living with my mother, my mom was the mother who wanted to be my friend, more or less a mother. She had a lot of moments where she would display her refusal to accept mediocrity. She did not. She was a very. She believed in thinking highly of yourself. Taking care of yourself, your clothes, your hair, your looks, and all of that stuff. Not so much on the inside. That's what my dad was about. My dad was a man that was determined to not follow in the footsteps of my grandfather. My grandfather was somebody who put his hands on my grandmother back when that was more common. And my dad was just somebody like, man, I don't want to be that type of father to my family, my wife, or anything. And so my dad, excuse me, guys, I gotta start getting ready for work. But my dad was off working, as he always has. My dad's always worked. Common, your average blue collar, black man that understood the importance of keeping life simple. Go to work, stay out of trouble. If you got certain friends you don't need to hang around, let them go, etc., etc. My dad had those type of friends. But anyway, up until that point where I started noticing what was going on in my life, I was about 11, 12 years old. I got taken away from my mother, based off of what my mother was doing in her personal life, drugs or what have you. And I got placed with my grandmother, which was my dad's mom. My mother's mom passed away when I was about 5 years old, and never really knew her or had a relationship with her or anything like that. And after that, I went to go stay with my grandmother out in Crosby, Texas. At that point, I was pretty much being raised by my grandmother. My dad checked in and out to check on me and stuff like that. Always had something for me for my birthday, for holidays. But around this time, my father was already engaging with another woman, which this woman ended up becoming my stepmother. She had 2 sons of her own that these guys became my stepbrothers. And when my father got married to her, it was, of course, something that my biological mother did not like, because of a lot of it has to do with her personality. She's, not really all mentally equipped to deal with what was going on at that time of your son being taken away from you, and all of these other things. During that time as well, she was also seeing another man named David, who became my stepfather. They ended up having 2 kids together. My dad and my stepmother, they had 1 son together. And so it became 4 boys, and I consider myself the runt of the bunch. Once I got into school and stuff like that, early on, school was easy. Didn't have any problems or anything like that. It wasn't until I started getting into the multiplication, the division, social studies and stuff like that, where things started to get pretty difficult for me. I was always an excellent English writing type of student. Those were my strengths, to the point where all of my other grades was suffering. Just, I was an underachieving student. And my brothers, my oldest brother being what I would call the kind of the loner. My brother was his own man in his own right, and he found a way to, in a culture where we were always following trends, clothes, styles, and stuff like that. My brother always found a way to kind of stand out on his own, although he was following the trends. When I had met my brother and started going to the new school, again, at that point I was already in like 3 different schools. When I started going to school out there with my father, the court had obviously granted my father the privilege of being my primary caretaker, because my mother was just too unstable. And so during that time, this was a different lifestyle for me that I had to get used to, of going to church, having brothers, learning how to share and be considerate, all of these different things, wash dishes, wash clothes. My father made a point when we were growing up, like, I know what society will tell you, boys, but I'm here to let y'all know that your mother is it's not her duty, so to speak, to wash your clothes and do this and do that. So my father was always trying to instill those type of principles in us, as far as kind of holding your own weight. Your mother is my wife. She's not washing your drawers. So I think like 2 years into me knowing this lady, damn it, like 2 or 3 years, we were already like washing our own clothes. She wasn't washing our clothes and shit like that. So, my dad, again, wanted to teach us these things because of certain things he would see when he grew up. And it was a great experience. So when I got into school, like I said, I was a very underachieving kid. I was a kid's kid. I played with toys. I was a huge wrestling fan. And I received a lot of, backlash about, everybody knows when you're a wrestling fan, especially back in the day, or even now, people tease you about, oh, why would you want to watch men in tights and oil and all this other shit? And to me, it never crossed my mind that this is, weird, because I thought to myself, well, they do, movies with stunt men and shit like that. That's not real. So, this is the same thing. And what I like to say is that wrestling taught me about character. Like how some people just fit a character. If you're an ugly person, a lot of times your facial features tend to make you an ugly person because of what you believe in. So you look at a guy like The Undertaker and you'll be like, damn, he kind of looks like a damn corpse of a person, especially when he puts on the whole, fedora and trench coat, etc., etc. So, I was learning something from wrestling. It wasn't just some weird ass shit. And mind y'all, I grew up during the time, I was born in 1993. I grew up during a time where there were no cell phones, and I played with toys and did all of that stuff, went outside, all of that. I had to learn a different way of life when I met my brothers, because they were country outside type of guys. Not country in a sense of like country bumpkin, but country meaning like they did not sit inside all day. They rode bikes. They went to family members' houses and shit like that. And I had to get used to that. And how I say I'm the runt of my brothers. When them dudes were riding bikes and shit, they would leave me probably 100 yards behind them, because they just had stamina on. They would just continue to pedal and pedal and pedal. And I'm like, God damn, When do y'all ever stop pedaling? So a lot of things with my brothers, man, I had to catch up. You know, I had to play catch up and get myself to a point where my older brother wanted us to compete for his acceptance without even saying it. It was like you want the approval of your older brother. You want your older brother to not think you're a bitch. So, and a lot of times my brother played us off against each other. But all it did was just create a competitive nature about us. My older brother is responsible for me and me getting into sports. I don't think I would have had not one interest in sports if I did not know or meet my older brother. My brother is also responsible for creating a fearlessness about anything. My brother was somebody that would turn flips off of the house, do backflip twists and shit on top of a moving car. My brother was just a wild motherfucker and a fun, loving, compassionate, big-hearted dude, man. My brother had respect that he never asked for. People just gave it to him because everybody knew. My brother's name is Xavier, so his nickname was X-Ray. Everybody like, oh, X coming, X-Ray gonna be there, X-Man gonna be there. That was his nickname. So, my brother's name is Xavier Ray. So your nickname is X-Ray and X and all this other shit. That was just kind of like, man, what are the odds of me receiving a brother this cool? And my brother was that. My brother was cool in every definition, and he did not try or anything. But I was a very underachieving student to the point where I had summer school every year. When I would go back and periodically visit my mom, of course, the courts, they scheduled a system, but my mom didn't want to honor it. Because of drugs, because of her own psychological breakdown when it came to actually giving me back to my dad so I can go to school. So a lot of times she would be like, I don't give a F about you getting to school. And of course, my mother was somebody that would call me bitches, all types of stuff. And of course, will say stuff like, if you keep doing this, and this, you're going to end up like your dad. But then she would also say a lot of times, your dad still loves me. Your dad wants to be with me. Your dad's with that big ass gorilla and all of this other stuff. A lot of it was funny, but some of it I did start to grow a compassion for my other family. And I would get angry and shit like that. And of course, my stepfather, rest in peace, he died from diabetes. But he also would make certain like gay innuendo, like suggest certain things like, oh, what they doing over there, Tanya? He wearing Xavier clothes because my brother would just give me clothes, like give anybody. He would never charge you or anything. He would just give people clothes. He couldn't wear it. Nigga, he would give away Ed Hardy. Y'all know how expensive Ed Hardy clothes are? True Religion. Y'all know how freaking expensive True Religion pants are? Anything from those stores. And my brother would be kind enough to be like, man, I can't fit it. What's the point of me here? See if you can fit that. And he'll give it to us. So, hold on, y'all. I got to make sure I got everything before I leave. I am working out today. I took off 2 days, so it's time to go back. Shit, I was going to think about taking 4 days. I might turn these into shorts. But, when I was always that kid that had summer school every year. So there was always this dark cloud over my head of like, okay, now it's time for CJ to show his progress report. Okay, now it's time for CJ to show his report card. Why you got these grades? So early in my life, a narrative started to get created of, I don't care about my grades. I don't care about, what's important. All I care about is making people laugh. My father is somebody who can make you kind of laugh. I mean, he's my dad, so I don't look at him as, just slap happy funny. But to some people, they like my dad. My dad's, pretty cool, so I have the same effect. And even to this day, if I make a complaint about something, I can make the same complaint you made, but everybody will then, the way I said it will impact, whatever it is that you said times 10. Like, so if you be like, man, bro, put it to you like this. When I'm at work and certain people want to complain about a person, I'm normally the one to kind of be like, bro, just give him a chance. Like, he or she is new, whatever. But I guarantee you, I also have the power to say, yeah, man, like one of the ladies now, I think we done hired another mental fucking, to the point where she does things like, she'll come out of nowhere, and if I'll go grab the dough, and then she'll walk up to me and be like, thank you. And I couldn't hold it, but like I just threw it on the table one day and was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? This ain't like, you act like this is your designated spot over here. It can be a shit ton of orders on the screen, and she like doesn't want to like top the pieces. She just want to stretch. And that shit is so, it's like, are you fucking retarded, dude? Like, you know how I work. I work by myself, and I work at a decent speed. Like, I don't need you to, she'll come over there, you need help? I'm like, nah, I got it. Like, I got it. And like, even if, like, she'll try to squeeze her ass. So I'm saying that to say, like, that's how I was, the way I'm describing it right now. I'll say the same shit, and somebody be, oh my God, Charles is crazy. Whoa, Charles is a fool. I'm like, dog, what did I say? All I said was the same shit you said. But again, I've always compared to, like, if you watch Bernie Mac may say something that really, or even Kent Williams, they might say something that really does piss them off, but the way they say it, the tone in which they say it, you, the average person that don't have any comedic timing or anything going on in your head as far as talent, you might just, to that, it was like, oh my God, that shit was hilarious. Like, so yeah, the common person might think what I say is just downright hilarious. So early on, everybody was like, all you want to do is make people laugh. That's all you want to do. You a class clown. And it got to the point where, as a kid, I really started getting affected by this accusation of, like, I don't care about my grades and shit. And I'm always like, bro, I like girls. Girls don't want to be with a dumbass. You know, I don't like to fail out when it comes to football season and stuff. I don't like to be the kid that's always having to be told, yeah, man, you know, hopefully you keep your grades up so you can play. I don't want to hear that shit. So by y'all keep telling me this, now I'm at the age, I'm in my teens, where people are telling me, like, Charles, we see what's going on. It's okay. And my dad will always raise me like, son, if it's happening more than one time, it's probably you. If people saying this shit, you hear it more than once, it's probably you. So I was always raised to not have a victim mentality. Check myself before I start trying to check somebody else. And it got to the point where now you have my brother, which is a no-nonsense type of person. My brother will knock you the fuck out. You know, my brother is, you know, not a joke when it comes to him telling you, hey, I'm finna hit you. You better quit. But he's passing his classes. He's making the A's, B's, and high C's. So my brother got a chance to fly. And then everybody know, when you the older brother, you get what's called older brother treatment. And everybody knows that older brother treatment is that you get away with certain things that your other brothers don't get away with. You know what I'm saying? So with that shit, my brother kind of had that same privilege, and like a lot of times I'll be getting bitched at, and my brother will be like, he'll be in the background like, yeah, we told you, CJ. Yeah, bro, and he'll just be instigating. And it got so bad once where I ended up telling them, like, yo, man, get the fuck out of here, bro. Like, stop doing this shit. And my parents was like, yeah, Xavier, you know, go ahead, stop doing that. We talking to CJ right now. But CJ, don't get mad at him. You the one that's, you know, instantly flipped. Like, don't get mad at him. I'm like, I'm not getting mad at him. He's being immature. Y'all niggas think I'm just lashing out because, again, having failing grades, it closed so many doors of, it just opened too many doors of doubt about everything in your life, because if again, if I was passing my classes, I could have got in so much trouble. My parents would have had patience. And that was one thing that my mother would always tell me. CJ, I don't care what you say, son. She is not your mother. You won't understand that until you get older. And I used to think like, what? Like, you're just tripping. Again. So that's two examples, you know, of people saying, yeah, you know, I see what's going on in the house, bro. You know, if you need somebody to talk to, just holler. I didn't ever go and say, man, my mama don't like me. I didn't walk around like that, because if that got back to my dad would be pissed. So my mom is now telling me, hey, you know, not my mom, but people are just like, hey man, you know, your dad is just, he's choosing her over you. And you start to hear these like cliche things, like how a man will choose, you know, the child over the woman, or the woman over the child, and vice versa with the yeah, that was the kind of shit that was going on. But I was just so, again, trained to think that, bro, like, it's something you're doing. So I'm getting older now, and I'm like, I'm trying to, I'm telling myself over and over and over again, like, hey man, you know, this shit's starting to become pretty obvious now. You're getting, and one of the biggest ones was when my stepmother's mom, Brenda, even she was like, yeah, CJ, you know, even when I lived with y'all, that was one thing that my dad did that pissed off my grandmother, which is his mom, was when my grandmother was going through all of this shit, my dad didn't give her a place to stay. But Grandma Brenda, which is my stepmother's mom, dad dedicated her, he gave a whole room to her. And my grandmother was hurt over that. She was like, yeah, I ain't gonna, and it was because of her being a Jehovah's Witness. So how rude of me, guys. How rude of me. I forgot to show y'all what the tent looks like. I would just a side note that when I get donations, I really put that money to use. You see my hair, I go get a haircut. You know, my food that I eat when I, you know, lift weights and stuff like that, I take my fitness very serious. So I don't put a lot of garbage in my body, if anything. I love lemonade, so that's probably lemonade and, you know, just, you know, and a brownie from Domino's, which don't even eat the whole brownie, but you get what I'm saying. I put the money to use. And let me show y'all what a brother helped me purchase, like on my bus. I'll show y'all what he helped me purchase. Give y'all a little walkthrough. Y'all have seen this before for the people who've seen it. But check it out. You see that? If this is going to be my final chapter of this homeless shit, I wouldn't want it any other way. I got tired of, with this tent, I got tired of sitting on my butt, sitting crisscross, not being able to stand up. I had a permanent like knot in my ass cheek from just sitting on the ground all the time. I got tired of not being able to stand. I got tired of when I come home, it's just something about having to get inside of something really low on the ground was just causing me, man, y'all know, y'all have heard the videos, man, where I've come home and somebody just dumped all the sweat I just washed off my body right on me. But that's it right there. I just did all of this maintenance and shit this morning, you know, because you gotta, you know, have airflow in there at some time. But y'all seen the generator in that big ass fan, and you see how gloomy it is right now? That is the perfect setup. That is the perfect setup. I take this right here, and I spray for all these roaches or anything like that just want to get, you know, happy. That'll keep them away. Spiders, ants, roaches. But yeah, man, the brother that helped me and donated to me, man, he know who he is. That's where your money went. $80. That tarp, I got that for free at a free garage sale down the street. one day I was washing my clothes and a guy was trying to get rid of all of this stuff in his garage. So he was like, man, if you want it, take it, take more. But I couldn't. And I even made a video about being spiritual and the fact that I told y'all, man, you can never have an abundance of anything when you're spiritual. You just can't. If it was a day like this, I probably would have walked back, but it was so hot. I just was like, man, I already had a basket full of clothes. So I was like, man, just take the tarp. That tarp is like a 10 by 12. That shit is huge. And I just had to stretch that whole goddamn thing over the top of that tent. And I mean, a lot of times, bro, I'd be just surprised. Like, how did you do that by yourself? So anyway, I'm going to summer school every year. It's obvious that I'm the kid that is struggling and can't get right? And the type of athlete that I was, it only added to the frustration of me not being able to pass my classes because I sucked at basketball. I had a natural thing for track and field just because of, me growing up during a time where we would ride bikes. Shit, we would just race each other for the hell of it. And, I didn't play baseball. I sucked. But when it came to football, I just had a natural Barry Sanders-like reaction to playing the game of football. And we never won anything. I was one of the kids that actually seen the reason why my team couldn't get over the hump. We were a lot like the Dallas Cowboys. We would just start riding high off of 2 wins, and the next thing you know, we just thought every team was supposed to bow down to us, and we would get crushed. But I always, for the most part, had good games individually. So now I'm an underachieving kid in school. Some of the disciplinary things I got into were head scratchers, but other things were justified. But at an early age, man, I was a junior in high school is when I basically started to come into my own. The internet, YouTube, and all that stuff was very, very popular at this time. It was just starting to take off, and everybody was getting, World Star. All this stuff was, Kimbo Slice, LimeWire. All these things were what were it. And I started seeing different things about chemtrails and all these different, conspiratorial topics. And it just seemed like my brain took an interest to it, unlike how it could ever take interest to anything that had to do with academics. I just wanted to know more and more and more, to the point where I had a friend named Seth. He was white, of course. And I asked him, I got a hold of his laptop because he knew that I knew how to download music and all this different stuff. And when I did that, I ended up getting a hold of his laptop. And in doing that, I just became engulfed in conspiratorial topics. I then got a whiff of Alex Jones and started going down those rabbit holes. That is when I became a less of a talker and more of a listener, because I was in my own mind trying to think like, bro, is this shit real? Like, is this stuff really going on the earth? And so at this point, my real mother, she was pretty strung out. Not really bad, but to the point where as a kid, I think about a lot of times when I would go over to her house, she would sleep all day and stay up all night. And I didn't know why she did that or at all. I just, never questioned it, because she was always somebody that would try to give me, things to make me happy as a kid, even if it came to like pay-per-view wrestling things, which I've only purchased one my entire life, was with her. My mother, when she had bought ECW One Night Stand, and I was just ecstatic, still remember that feeling. And my stepfather actually took me to a wrestling show, when he was alive, at the Toyota Center, so I have those experiences. But my mom, had violent streaks, man, where I had a dose of what it was like being a kid that your mama will knock your ass upside the head, she'll throw something at you, she'll call y'all out your name, and all of these different things. But that's just because of, she had no control over a lot of things in her life. She didn't have control as she thought she had control. So she would lash out in hopes that you would, respect her based off of her just lashing out, it just, after a while, my mother would a lot of times try to get me to do things that would really hurt my dad. One of the times I was 14, and me and her had planned this entire, scheme of like trying to get me to come live with her. So what she did was told me, hey, I'll come pick you up from school. Since your dad's going to be at work, we can just get everything that, that's yours and whatnot, and we'll, pack it up and go. So that's what we did. And it was like maybe, I think the next day, the police come banging on my mom's back door with my dad there. And my mom was, the police was like, hey, the way they handled it was like, get your shit, dude, and get in the car with your dad, and that really hurt my dad. It really hurt him. I remember him crying because he figured that he was doing everything for me, and that I just continued to want to be around my mother. And it didn't take long before my dad was always the guy that chose to be the bigger man. He would always say, hey, how's your mom doing? Is she okay? Because after what I just told y'all, my dad was married to this woman, so he had a concern for like, how is she doing? Is she okay? And as a kid, I was like, no, she's good. So my dad was in the process of just teaching us a lot of very important values. And my older brother needed him. My older brother needed my father in his life just as much as anybody, because my brother was just I wouldn't say an angry dude, but when he went off the rails, my mom couldn't bring him back in herself. So my dad had to always be there and just trying to let him know, like, bro, it's like, we don't do stuff like this. You're not gonna walk around my house disrespecting me and doing stuff with women in the house. And I'm not, even though he did it anyway, but my brother was somebody, I didn't look up to my brother, but I didn't have any problem with being represented by my brother. And if they tell you like, oh, that's X-ray brother, then you're not gonna bother me. I had two bullies my whole life, and both of them I dealt with them by saying, one of them, hey bro, cut that shit out. It was a big old fat dude that we used to play football with. I hated being touched with a sweaty body and all of that. And he thought that would be funny to take his shoulder pads off with his Under Armour like a big old fat seal. And he would just try to hug you and do all of that. And I used to be like, bro, cut that crap out. Cut it. And one day I wasn't feeling it. It was hot. And I just threw him off and be like, bro, like, chill out, man. And I never had to worry about him ever again. The other guy, he knew of my brother and hung around my brother so much that he was just like, I can't really go in on CJ because I hang with his brother. And my brother not gonna fight nobody on my behalf. But, you just kind of knew, like, all right, man, like, you know what I'm saying? Let the little dude make it, bro. Like, his brother cool. Y'all probably just got some little beef going on right now, but, like, let it go. So a lot of guys I didn't even have to worry about, I was a new kid coming into a community of established people already, so it saved me a lot of time not having to worry about trying to fit in and have friends and all that shit. I didn't have to worry about none of that because my older brother did most of the work for me. And so now, once we get into school and stuff like this, man, I did a little bit of everything in school, man. I had sex with girls in school. one time that actually ended up changing one of the rules in track and field, where boys and girls could not ride the same bus. And then at nighttime, everybody kind of lays out on the football field waiting on their event. Well, I was the reason why, for some time that they were just like, hey man, y'all ain't allowed to have blankets, y'all not allowed to, chill under the bleachers and stuff like that until, y'all boys on one side, girls on the other side. So I did that. I did end up, I loved fighting based off of, the science of fighting. And again, I told you, I was a big fan of Kimbo Slice. Big fan. And being a big fan of Kimbo Slice, is that a basketball goal? What the heck? Being a fan of Kimbo Slice, I wanted to do what Kimbo do. And one of those things, everybody knew Kimbo for street fighting. So I wanted to do the same thing. And being a gentleman that I was going to school with, we both agreed. I beat him up. And that's when I found myself not liking fighting to the point where I didn't like fighting, unsanctioned fighting. I didn't like it.
If transferring to the 25 Richmond line, please exit here and use the pedestrian crosswalk to Richmond stop. Estación Richmond. Si se transfiere la ruta 25 Richmond, salga aquí y utilice el cruce peatonal para llegar a su parada.
When we started fighting, I didn't like that. For the most part, he was guarding his face, and I was throwing like straight line punches, but not even making contact with his face fully, and started seeing blood just spit out everywhere. I told myself, I can't do this. I can't do this. Unless I'm like fighting for my life, I can't do this shit. I'm not even making contact with this dude's face. He ended up having a gash right here. And even if you look at his Facebook picture, he still has like the little hook, because it was like meat hanging off right there. And I used to have a mood ring on, and he had a class ring on, some shit he did for FFA where he got a ring for it. And I remember I had like a knot on my lip where I bit my, he hit me, and he didn't hit me. He was trying to get his head up, because the first thing he tried to do was try to tackle me. First thing he did, we're squaring up, and he just tries to tackle me. So once I had him, had his head down, and I lifted his head up with my hands, lifted his head up like this, and just head-butted him right in the nose. And that staggered him, and from that point, he fell on top of the, he started leaning on the water fountain, and, everybody around us was like, man, let him, and I just kept saying, bro, come on, get off the water fountain, get up, put your hands up, let's go again. So we ended up getting caught for that. I ended up getting in some trouble. If anybody y'all know that in school suspension, when they basically send you to a whole different building where you basically on student lockdown. You're not allowed to eat with other kids. You're not allowed to go on field trips. You're not even allowed to do anything that has anything to do with athletics. You're not allowed to go to games and shit. None of that. So I ended up having that shit twice happen to me when I was in school. Once because I ended up threatening a lady that I was going to kill her when I was, in middle school, and this is a lady that knew me from church, and she did what I did not like at the time, which is if you gonna correct a child, a young kid that's in school, do it as an adult. Don't try to embarrass me as a kid and you a full-fledged adult, because now I'm gonna resort to violence. You really think you enjoy this excitement that other kids are giving you based off of you telling me something to do? Man, that's not a good idea. You know what I mean? So when I got put in those classes, man, those are some of the best. That was the best I ever performed when it came to my grades ever. A's and A's and B's and high C's. My father was like, yeah, good deal, man, good deal. My dad was happy. And I even thought to myself, like, bro, this shit ain't gonna, like, it's not gonna stay like this at all. The only reason it's like this is because I'm by myself. I go to school sometimes and then, like, the whole day I'll just draw. Like, I drew a decapitated Joker versus Batman, and just, I did that shit for probably 4 weeks. And then, the last, 6 weeks they do to grade all your work, I just started doing, like, all my work at the end of the 6 weeks. Just started doing it all, like, within the next week. And my aunt, on my stepmom's side, she was the one that taught the class. So, again, like, this is a family member that's like, okay, I see what you're going through. Most of the women in my life, especially when I was a kid, bro, they just showed me just a tremendous amount of mercy, and just, they would always say, like, CJ, it's okay. Like, we see something in you, man. You might not see it in yourself, but you're a good kid. Because I was not a bad kid. I mean, I'm raised in a house where you'll get your ass whooped if you out here thinking you finna just be cussing up a storm like my father made it, and he made it. You're not gonna embarrass my family when you out there in the streets. Whatever you do out there, it reflects on what they think go on in this house. So that was always that silent punishment of, like, what's gonna happen if this shit get back to your dad, bro. So here it is that, like I said, I'm basically turning myself into a conspiracy theorist from about 15, about 17. I had now like about 3 years of about 3 years of Alex Jones. He was really the only one I listened to at the time. I never sought out information. I never did things like, I want to, I never typed into the search bar conspiracy theory or anything. Things would just come to me through time. And so that's how, by the time I was 17 years old and I got the phone call saying, hey, Charles, you're not going to graduate. Don't bother. Don't even bother showing up to rehearsal. By this point, man, I was already just tired of everything. I was tired of what my parents and everybody was saying, you could do this. And I know I can. But the fact of the matter is, I can't. I'm not the type of learner. I'm not the type of learner that you tell me to memorize a bunch of shit and put it on paper. I can't. That's not the type of learner that I am. By this point in my life, I had already done enough to confirm that I'm a hands-on learner. Trying to memorize continents and all of that other shit, I'm sorry. It's not for me. It's not for me. So, and then all the crying and the accusations and shit, I was already tired by that point. So when they told me that, I didn't care. I was already in fear, like, man, what if my younger brother ends up graduating before me? What if I was just in so much fear from this school shit that I had already became my own person. Because I got tired of people trying to create the narrative for me. I did care about my grades. And that's pretty much it. I can't really say anything. I can't really say I struggled in anything else, man. I can't. It's my grades. So if my grades were decent and all that, my parents would have overlooked all that other shit. I had one friend who later on in life became my roommate. They made prejudgments about him, but then they found out how his grades looked, and they were like, well, shit, you might need to want to ask him for some help or something. Y'all don't get it, bro. Y'all don't get it. And in the day that my child comes up to me saying he can't do this or that, his grades look like this and that, I'm damn sure not going to sit in and tell him like, oh man, you ain't trying hard enough. Because I'll have a pulse. I'll have a pulse on my child in his level of intelligence and comprehension. To where as a parent, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I do kind of understand how the school system can have your mind all fucked up. Well, what do you like to do outside of these books? You still got to do the work. You still got to try to, pass this stupid shit. But what do you like to do outside of this shit, bro? Something that okay, you can put it on the scale and say, well, I like to do this over here, but I can't because I got to handle this over here. And you can try to find that balance. But you sitting there as a parent telling me I ain't trying hard enough. These niggas asking me, you want a tutor? And I'm like, what is that gonna do? What it boils down to is, can I remember what the fuck I'm putting on this paper? Whatever I'm reading, can I remember it for this date to put it back on this paper? And if you can't remember it, then you screwed. So that already put me, like I said, now, like, as this kid that, like, my mom and, you had a couple, people that were just like, all right, now since he ain't graduated high school and he didn't care and all that, he's destined for failure. And so my life started becoming that of somebody who, on the surface, you could say, yeah, I told you don't graduate, you smoking weed, even though I never got caught with weed. My brother has, I haven't. All of these different things that you think is the truth about a kid just not graduating high school. Now you think his life is gonna fall apart. I can tell you now, if I didn't graduate and I would have had a car, and I'm driving around everywhere, and they see me at these events and all that, I don't have to have a haircut. I can have some raggedy clothes, but I got a car. That would have been that'd have been the second phase of them, like, well, he's all right, That's how they would have looked at that. But because I didn't have any of it, they were just like, this nigga's a lost cause. What he want to sit here and talk about wrestling all day? What do you want to talk about? What academic can you interest us in if we ask you, are you going to school for anything? And you can say, I'm going to school to be rectal science radiation engineer. Man, shut the fuck up. Don't give a shit about any of that stuff. At an early age, I was already learning, like, a lot of this shit is nonsense. I didn't just write it off because I can't do it, but I was just like, man, a lot of this shit don't even make sense. It don't. I was already getting that early dose of, like, a lot of this stuff that they shoving in our brains and shoving in your brains. And at that time, look, I just knew, like, okay, bro, like, you gotta be a pretty consistent student. We went to church and everything. We went to church every Sunday. My parents were very consistent. I did not have parents that missed work. I did not have parents that lied. I did not have parents that drink and smoke. I did not have parents that broke promises. If my parents typically my dad, he would always say, we'll see. He got me to learn that at a young age, that, bro, shit happens in life. And then you sitting here making promises, yeah, I'm gonna do that shit for sure. And then something pops up. This is why you have adults not knowing how to manage their time. You got adults that don't know how to make commitments and stick to them. So that was another valuable piece of, information my father gave me was, son, anything can happen. And the last thing I need you doing is being mad at me because I told you I was going to do something and I didn't do it. As a kid, you ain't going to understand why certain shit might happen and I can't make it. But that's why you're a kid. So as an adult, I'm telling you, son, I'm going to try my best and we'll see. I'll try to make something happen. So my parents also set that example of, if you're going to say, be a man of your word. My stepmother, she always encouraged me and my brothers to do your best. And it may sound cliche. I told y'all, I am the prince of hating cliche sayings. If you around me and you saying these little soundbite type of things, I'm probably going to tell you to get the fuck from around me. Or I'm going to look at you and roll my eyes and be like, man, shut the fuck up. That false sense of everything going to be all right. Mama's boy. But my mother, when she would say do your best, she didn't even know at the time when she told me that even fed into my character forming, even around, the whole grade is like, bro, I've done my best. I've done exactly what you said. I've done my best with everything that's been put in front of me, and I still can't get it done. So I quit. Like, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm done. I did all I could do. So I even applied that to that part of my life, and she, doesn't know that, but that was a valuable lesson of once you've done all you could do, man, ain't nothing you could do. Ain't nothing else you could do. It'll take a lot of stress off of you. I've always had perfect attendance. Even to this day, man, I'm always the guy that's early for work, 2-3 hours early. I'll either chill out or, hang around or whatever, get something to eat. But I've always been great at managing my time. You can always count on CJ having perfect attendance every year. But we went to church, man. We sometimes went to, other services and stuff, but you're going to get your ass up and go to Sunday school and then, go to service. And that also taught me the ways of God, God's ways. I don't think anything highly of my family and shit like that, the way they would choose to worship God. I don't believe a lot of what they think, but it was a great foundation to have, knowing that when everybody else is doing this and that on Sunday, you're at church. Yeah, it's boring and shit, but it teaches you how to have balance in life of everything don't always have to be turned up to the max. Having moments of seriousness, having moments of, dedicate to your yard or to your cars or anything like that you might need to upkeep. Instead of waking up, I got the weekend off, now I'm just finna get fucked up and sleep all goddamn day. So my parents, they made it a thing that we going to church. We used to eat and stuff like that at the kitchen table before, times got harder. But, I had a traditional upbringing. So by the time I was, like I say, found out I wasn't graduating, I was already like, bro, I've done my best. I've done all I could do. I know other shit about the world that I'm still trying to confirm, is it true? I don't give a fuck about this stuff anymore. I don't. And that was my introduction into the real world. I became a guy that didn't graduate. I went to jail twice for things that were pretty knuckleheadish, but I put an end to it, and I didn't allow it to just keep going and going and going and going to the point where I would have never gotten out of the legal system. I told him, like, hey man, if I gotta sit in here for a couple years, I don't care. I just want to know when I'm out of here, it's done. I don't want to go to no classes. I don't want to take no nothing. I want this shit to be done. So I made sure that I stayed in, and even in jail, I wasn't somebody that was highly liked. I became, even in school, I became somebody that was always being questioned of what's wrong. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? I'm the guy that was always having to be told, smile, smile, smile. Man, you know how far a smile can go? So, of course, you're hearing that and you're like, is there anything even wrong with me? No. Is there a reason why I don't want to smile? No. So what the fuck is wrong with people? What the hell is wrong with y'all? It's not, it's CJ. That's the problem. Something's wrong with them. These people, either two things. They either really truly think something's wrong with you, or they're convinced in their mind that they have something to tell you to try to make whatever in their mind think is bothering you go away. So they think, oh, hey, look at the bright side. It's Monday. Fuck off. Fuck off. Coming to work today. It's been slow all day. Ain't nothing going on. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. I don't want to hear it, because I know there is no such thing as a slow day. There's slow moments, but there ain't no such thing as a slow day. So I was always being asked, what's wrong with him? He looked mad, he looked happy, he looked sad, he looked glad, you look mean, all this shit. Bro, that stuff starts to play on your mind. It starts to piss you off. It starts to make you think, bro, is there anything wrong with me? Good morning. Another beautiful morning. So let's continue. So by this point in my life, I'm already out of high school. I'm nervous at the fact that I didn't graduate. What if I never become anything? What if everything they say about people that don't graduate, what if it's true? What if I never find a job? And at that point, I started going to workforce solutions with my older brother. Ended up getting my first job at a warehouse that I also, I think that was the first time I ever had the flu. Now I'm starting to notice every time I get a job, I'm not prepared, whether it means physically or really just physically, because at this point I had already been smoking weed. I started smoking weed at 17. And it was due to my best friend at the time. He lived right behind me at my house, and we was only separated by a cornfield. And his dad and his mom were drug users. And when I say drug users, I mean like they were alcoholics. Dad smoked weed and his mom was a crackhead, but she was kind of like an on and off crackhead because she noticed that she was kind of stuck in between two worlds. The world of being a family woman and the world of like, my husband doesn't even love me, so why the hell would I even commit to him? They really just exist to feel good. That's all they really did. I would go to his house, and his parents, in particular his mom, because me and his dad never talked, ever. Like, I probably went over to his house twice in damn near 15 years. You know, his dad just stayed in the room, listening to loud music, smoking and drinking. That's all he did. And he would include Terrell in those activities. So now this is a young kid now who's smoking and drinking, as a teenager. So much so that he's coming to school high and drunk. One time he came to school and he had took like some 900 milligram hydrocodones. So he was like sleepwalking. And so now and this is the only friend I really ever had, because everybody that was, attached to me from sports, it was sports. It wasn't really anything outside of that would draw my interest to these people. And Terrell became somebody that was a liability. Everybody would say, well, why does he do dumb shit like that? I became the spokesman for him as far as why he did certain things. And I would just tell him like, bro, I don't know. Ask him. I mean, it got to the point where we figured out that Terrell was a corny motherfucker. He's the guy that when you're telling him, hey man, take that stupid ass shit off. He used to wear like a fishnet shirt. And people would be like, bro, take that shit off. You look fucking dumb. And he was just so stuck in his ways where he'd be like, I don't care. So he became that friend, the friend that you're trying to help and get people to see like, hey bro, we're not laughing with you. We laughing at you. He just didn't care. He was what you call stuck on stupid. So soon after that, like I said, I ended up getting a job with my older brother, and we were going in and out of this warehouse, and it was like 30 something degrees in the warehouse, and it was like another like 15 degrees in another department. So all in all, the place was just freezing. And I had already, I used to try to figure out, like, why do I always feel like this when it comes to me getting a job? I feel just tired and drained. And, well, me not understanding at that time that my body was beginning to suffer in ways that would cause me a lot of heartache later down the line. I didn't know it then, but I know it now that I had a lot of anxiety from just the worrying of being normal. Will I lose my job? Will I be able to, bring myself to and from work? Can I handle this waking up at 4 o'clock shit in the morning? All these different things started like really having an effect on my body and just how I felt. So, I remember that job, and I remember me and some other guys that my brother we were friends with. When we started this job, I remember at one point I told my brother, like, man, I can't do this shit. I feel horrible. And I had the flu. Hot, cold, sweating in cold air, freezing in hot air. And just was like, and I was just telling myself, like, this would happen to me. This would happen to me, bro. First job. Now I'm already getting the rap for like, oh, he's the guy that don't want to work. He's the guy that, whatever the fucking case may be. And so when that shit started, that then put, damn, she finding a bitch. That put me in a position where everybody just started, having their doubts about me and what I can do and what I can't do and shit like that. So I remember my brother, this was one of the most heartfelt moments from my brother when I told my brother, like, hey man, I don't feel good, bro. I can't even function right now. And he gave me the keys to the truck because he was driving my dad's Expedition. And he was like, all right, man, here's the keys. Like, you can go wait in the car. And I'm like, I'm finna be waiting in this car for like 5, 6, 7 hours. Man, my brother came out of that building and he jumped in the truck and was like, man, let's go. We're going home. And I was like, well, what happened? Like, what happened? He was like, man, look, let's just go home, bro. You say you don't feel good, let's go home. And I could tell at the time he didn't feel anything toward me. Like, he didn't think like, oh, this nigga, I really, like, that was a moment where my brother was basically like making a sacrifice for me to be able to, take me back to the crib because I wasn't feeling good and stuff like that. And he didn't have no opinion about it, So my brother Xavier, man, is somebody that I'm just very grateful for, that my father married his mother, and because I would not, anything you name, I would go to war with my brother. It don't matter what it is. I would choose my older brother to participate in any endeavor that I include myself in. I know my brother gonna ride. I know my brother gonna fight. I know my brother gonna defend. I know my brother gonna tell the truth. And that's real talk. I love my brother to death. I'll die for my brother. You hear me? My brother and all his kids and my nephews, I die for them niggas so that they can have a better life, if that's what that meant that I had to do. I love them that much. So now we fast forward to, I done had a couple jobs now. None of these jobs are working out because of my health. Smoking weed is starting to just like strip me of all testosterone. And when I say that, I mean like muscle mass. I mean like having certain vitamins and minerals that would allow you to make it through a hot summer day and stuff like that. Man, I was suffering. I was suffering big time. Big time. I mean, everybody would be smoking and drinking and all of that. And now I started to develop that shit happens every time I come in here. They stock these things up to the brim. You grab one thing, hell, you even look at the item, it's gonna fall off the counter. But I just, at that point, that's when I started, basically my dad kept telling us, like, bro, when you go apply for a job, you don't go apply with another dude. You know what I'm saying? If y'all coming up here trying to find a job, they're gonna know automatically, like, well, why the hell we want to hire all you clowns? You know what I mean? Like, we ain't trying to do that shit. So I'm gonna get some clean water. So that's whenever we basically separated and started living our own lives. And again, man, I didn't graduate high school. I'm out here, no car, no license. My dad offered, you know, hey, you know, we can, you know, I can get you one of the cars outside. We can, you know, you can have one of them or whatever. But she got an ass on her, boy. Shit. I'm gonna have to holler at her when I come back. But, well, I ended up not graduating. And I remember that feeling of like, when I was a kid, when I got that phone call, I was at my friend's house down the street named Joe Angel. We used to work out together. Me and him became friends based off of bodybuilding. We both like bodybuilding. We were both taking supplements. We were both into that shit. And, you know, I would go to his house, and his family pretty much became like, you know, my second family. They enjoyed having me around. They, you know, his mama would cook and do all this crazy ass shit, you know, to make me feel comfortable and stuff like that. Because again, I was raised to say yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir, wash dishes, take out trash, wash your clothes, mop, sweep, clean up shit, all that. I'm a man. I'm built for the front lines of anything that's nasty, that's unacceptable, that's a challenge. I'm supposed to take on that shit. So his mother was very, very heartbroken when she found out I wasn't going to graduate, because she was hoping that was something she could attend almost like one of her own kids. You know what I'm saying? And so when she did that, bro, what is wrong? This just ass mania today. Ass mania. Everybody got an ass out this morning. Jesus Christ. So, once that happened, I remember it like it was yesterday, man. I came out the restroom and I had told her like, hey, I'm not, you know, I know you're gonna be mad at me or whatever, but I didn't graduate. And she was like, what, Mijo? What? And I was like, I know, I'm sorry. And she was just like, I'm disappointed in you. How could you do that? Like, did you even try? And I was like, dude, I've already been through this. You know, with my own parents. Trust me, I tried. And then she was just kind of like, ugh, like, really? Like, did you really even try your best? But you can start to see how people, like, once they had a second kid, and, like, I tell you, I would not have that problem. I would not have that problem with, hey, man, y'all been together for 5 years. Y'all look like this. No, man. You wouldn't be able to tell me and my gal been together for so long that we started to lose our beauty. This chick here, boy, shit. I used to have a crush on her. Now she look like goddamn me, Gary Coleman or some shit. Let me stop, man. Let me stop. Let me tell y'all niggas, she had a boyfriend. Y'all remember that nigga Say So P? That Mexican nigga that died out here. Died in Memphis, that rapper. That Mexican rapper. That's what her boyfriend looked like. And she a whole nigga. And her boyfriend looked like looked like goddamn me. Say So P. Or Peso, whichever one. Just like, what the hell are you doing with some shit like that? Whatever. Whatever. But, yeah, man, that, you know, she was just like, I'm disappointed in you. And I was like, well, I'm sorry, you know. I'm already feeling bad about the whole thing. Like, I feel bad that I didn't graduate and all of that. So I don't need the extra feelings from my friend's mom, you know. I love and respect you enough that it hurt me, it broke my heart that I didn't do it, you know what I mean? So, you know, when I found that shit out, and then, you know, like I said, I had to then start putting shit together as far as what am I going to do with my life? Again, like, am I going to be a complete bum now that I didn't graduate? No, that wasn't the case. After that first job, like I said, I had the flu. Morning, I had the flu, and I got over it. I think my next job was, excuse me, this was when we were just going to all of these workforce solutions, because where I lived at, it wasn't nothing going on. So you pretty much had to just go either far out to Rosenberg, Richmond area, or you had to go to like Sealy and Brookshire, Belleville area. And a lot of these places just didn't have jobs. My second job was Walmart distribution center, and that job as well was not able to be taken advantage of because of my health. When I had started getting these headaches again, they were like, when I left high school, there was a female that I went to go live with out in Huntsville, and I ended up getting with her based off of her and one of my buddies. I told you, Seth, the guy I told you about the laptop. He ended up getting a reputation for having a black man dick as a white boy. So when the word got back to this Caucasian female, she was like, "Oh, I think I want to try. I think I want to try it." Well, I was always opposed to dudes using girls and not tell them. Notice what I said. I don't care if you gonna use a bitch, okay? But if you gonna use her, tell her that. Don't sit there and lead her to thinking you gonna date her and all of that shit. Let her know, hey, we finna just have this little, just run in and then that's it. So I told her, hey, that nigga ain't trying to date you, bro. That nigga's not trying to date you. I don't know why he not being honest. So she heard that and was like, oh, that was very sweet. So maybe you could be my boyfriend. I said, all right, cool. So I ended up dating her, and I moved to Huntsville. This is the first time I leave my house. First time. Told my parents, hey, I'm leaving. Thanks for everything. I'm ready to put a lot of this shit to the test. So they're proud of me and blah, 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 blah. And I thought that this was going to be the moment that I leave my house and come back with more than what I left with. Far from the case. What I ended up getting into out there was, I saw what the college experience looks like. Horrible. I saw what a female that is lust-driven will do. That shit's pretty scary. When a female is driven by lust, I remember she had a laptop that I would download music, look at, videos and stuff. And she had over like 6 hours of search history on one dude. She went to work one day and I'm looking through my history to find out, what was the last thing that I looked at. And I seen Facebook. And I'm like, I don't remember looking at no damn Facebook for this long. Yeah, I know. It's because she was doing research on some guy that worked at the McDonald's, that when I had broke up with her, I became homeless in Huntsville. Walking around, didn't know where to post up, didn't have a job, anything. And so when I did that, she basically moved on. Like, she tried to move on to a different guy because one of the things my headaches would do, it also took away my sex drive. Like I said, all in all, it was just stripping my testosterone out of my body. Oh, that's a nice truck. That's a sick two-tone truck. I like that. Never seen that before. But if I had to call what the fuck it was happening to me, all these niggas on this damn road. It's a small back road, and you be having more cars on this damn road than the main road. Jesus Christ. When that shit happened, when I started smoking and trying to find ways to get, again, this female was like, well, why don't you try these, the migraine relief from CVS. So I was like, all right, cool. So I'm trying it. Sometime it would work. Sometime it didn't work. Sometime it would work. And sometimes it would not work. And I'd have to take more to to make sure it would work, and then next thing I know, I'm taking 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 pills. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Never experienced migraines ever in my life, ever. I was a kid that had nosebleeds because the men in my family, we run hot. We get to running hot. Next thing we know, we got to worry about our blood pressure. So with me always getting these headaches, I couldn't do what normal people did. I even tried at this point exercising. I had put all of my weightlifting and shit to rest because I was just so depressed from not graduating. I didn't know where my life was going. So I told myself, well, maybe I can drink some water. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do that just to get rid of these headaches. This is a feeling I've never felt before. Being in agony where I can't even open my eyes. And again, it's all prompted from smoking weed because I never had that problem before then. If the only problem I had before then was that my nose would start randomly bleeding. That was it. But then, now I'm having to worry about aches and pains, migraines, all this shit. And what it ultimately ended up doing was costing me jobs, man. So every time, at this point in my life, I'm 17 years old. I have not graduated high school. I have created a narrative about myself that I don't care about my grades. I don't care about life. It was funny. My parents one time, they tried some slick shit. You know that show Scared Straight. When that show first came out, my parents tried to, they pulled me in the room for whatever reason. I know for what the reason was, but it was at the time, it was like, what did I do wrong? They was like, nothing, we just come here, we just want to show you something on TV. And so they found themselves asking me about this TV show. Am I afraid? Does this worry me? Does this look like a path I could potentially go down? And I looked at my parents like, no. And it was one of the moments in my life where it was one of the few moments that I chose to go against status quo. Instead of saying, oh yeah, I'm scared. Oh no, I don't want this to happen to me. I was like, no. Like, I'm more or less mad at y'all, attempted this shit. And I remember my stepmom, her face was like, she just started shaking her head like God, Lord. And I'm just like, and it just made me upset because I knew kids that just really didn't give a fuck. I knew kids that'll walk out of class. I knew kids that'll fight a teacher. And I was not that kid. And I knew in my mind, like, bro, it's literally only my grades that's causing, this type of disconnection between me and my dad and me and my stepmom. So me and my stepmom, we had just this awkward ass relationship that my mother warned me about plenty of times. And I started to see it. And the few times that I did mention it to my dad, he did get upset. And he did display the exact behavior that they said he was going to display. Like, they were like, bro, he's going to defend his wife. He's not going to take your side. So I was like, okay, that's another thing that I'm done with. I'm done trying to make this nigga understand what the fuck this dynamic is. And it's a shame that I'm his son and I see this shit. So when I left the house, every time I left my dad's house, it was because I wanted to get out on my own and didn't want to be up underneath that house anymore. I've already seen an alternate universe where I would have not been so eager to leave, not knowing that, okay, I don't have a car, I don't have a license. I got to get my shit together before I try to get out of this house. So I left the house probably on 3 different occasions after I got out of high school. All really because of my stepmom. Didn't want to be there with her. And it got to the point where I just felt my courage starting to increase based off of the evidence that I had of everything that I disagreed with. Oh, why you smoking weed? Nigga, why the fuck is it a big deal if I'm smoking weed? Like, y'all know why it's a big deal, but you're clearly making this something that, for me, you're making it a big deal. You blowing it out of proportion. Meanwhile, your oldest son is smoking in the car that y'all said don't smoke in. Come in the house smelling like weed. Show up to church smelling like weed. So I had all that evidence. I had evidence of like, bro, you guys... I already know how y'all would be because Xavier did it already. He was able to act a fool, but still pass his classes. And y'all have that. Well, I didn't say y'all, but anyway, every time I left the house, man, I left my dad's house unprepared. Never had a car, never had a license, didn't know how to go about getting a job or anything. So when I lived in Huntsville with that female, that was one hell of an experience. And that was the first time that I experienced what it was like to not be wanted somewhere. I remember, just the fact that my body was so weak and tore down at this point from, I was already undersized as a kid. And then as a teenager, I didn't get no bigger. I had an athletic tone or shape to my body, but I wasn't anything like, on a level of, you can tell a kid is in athletics, you know what I mean? So by this point, I was not physically something that I believe that girl at the time didn't want to be with, on top of, just my personality. I was a low energy guy, I enjoy playing the game, and just in my own right, I knew that I'm very spontaneous. I'm very funny and all these other different, traits I do have. But it was just a bad time to have a girlfriend and all of these different things that she ultimately told me to my face, like, I just want you to go back home. And it hurt my feelings because I felt like, not having a job and stuff like that, that was pretty much, I was being looked at as a bum, even though I was raised to that wasn't my intent to just live off a female. No, I wanted to make my own money and help her out and stuff like that, so some time passed, and I basically got the experience that I was looking for, because I ended up going to jail, started up my whole, legal life there, and quickly put it into it. But that was a lifestyle that I knew I wasn't built for it, because I'm too much of a realist, that when you're around people that y'all hear me talk about it all the time with that false sense of everything gonna be okay type shit. So when I'm in jail and I'm looking at these dudes like you guys don't have any idea about anything going on in this world, do you? They looked at me like, oh, you think you better than everybody, so it forces you to be quiet, So when I came home, I think in 2018, got out, went back home to my dad's. My dad and my mom, they actually came and picked me up all the way from Huntsville. The first time my mom came and got me from Huntsville, and then there was a second time where I was actually home, and a former classmate passes me by on this like long ass country road. He passes me up and he's like, hey man, how you been? And I was like, I'm all right, man. Like, I had to leave the Huntsville shit behind. And he was like, oh man, that's crazy. Well, I'm a manager over there at the Dairy Queen. And if you want to come back, you know, I can put you down, get you a job. Maybe you and your girl can work it out. I said, all right, cool, I'll try. Well, I moved back. And I think I had already mentioned it, that she had already tried to move on. Okay. So when I came back, I basically came back to work because she was not trying to be in a relationship. I ended up shacking up with him for a little bit. And then I ended up coming back home again. Reason being, I ended up not basically having anywhere to stay. You know, it was a situation where I had to gauge all possibilities of what was going on. And that's what I came up with, was like, you know, I don't, you know, you guys are already here. This is y'all's place. And, you know, the female ain't fucking with me like that. And I ended up living with the manager. He was another manager. And I say it to this day, man, I've never met anybody in my life who drunk as much as he did. He smoked weed too, but he was the type of drinker he was, bro. He'd get off at 11 at night, 12 or whatever. And I do it now. So I see how he did it. But he would smoke till like 7, 8, 9 in the morning and had to be up at 11. So some days he would just go to work, still just blasted. It was crazy, man. But me and him, I ended up having to get my brother involved. And see, this is why I talk about situations like the dude at work. Bro, you have no idea the links, just the ease in which I can make these situations go from bad to worse. Okay? I've said it already. I have the best big brother anybody could ask for. Because he know if I say I need help, he's not going to ask any questions. He's just going to, all right, yeah, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. And it's not going to be nice. Oh, you one of them niggas that call you a big brother? Man, it might be best that I call him instead of me deal with you. Because I told you, I'm not a fighter. When I say fighter, I mean like, if you want to go hand to hand, I mean, yeah. But I don't want to, because it's going to get to a point where I know that I'm going to best you in a lot of areas. And a lot of that shit is going to result in you having broken bones. And me possibly letting go a fit of rage that might put me in prison. And it wouldn't be no turning back for me. I'm that afraid of my own capabilities when it comes to someone wanting to fight. So my brother will just show up and be like, what was that shit you were saying? And whoever this person is will be like, wait, what you doing walking toward me? He'll two-piece you, knock you out, and you'll fall on your back, and he'll just stand over you and be like, so what was you saying, bro? And you'll be sitting there with your hands extended like, man, chill, bro, chill. And he'd be like, I ain't here, I'm done, but, you know, what's the problem? What's going on here? You see what I'm saying? So, there was another situation that happened like that with that female. Where I actually experienced true racism. Well, it wasn't really racism. I call it prejudice. Because racism, that shit is like mental illness. Like, yeah, man, you can't whip your dick out and pee in that same commode that I peed in because I'm white and you black. What sense does that make? But to see a black man with a white girl and say, what the hell is she doing with that Negro? What the hell could he possibly have going on in his life that she thinks, he's better than, one of us? That I do believe goes on. So, I'm on my way out of high school, and on my way out the door, I had disappointed a lot of people. My parents, it was another family that I was cool with. Their son, their parents were disappointed, especially his mother. They were Hispanic. And I just got tired of all those feelings of letting people down, never really able to get across the finish line. So at that age, 16, 17, I had already started developing my own mindset as far as fuck everybody. You know, I have spent a majority of my childhood trying to make people happy, trying to be accepted, and I'm just not feeling this shit no more. So when I left the house, every time I left my house, I left it because of my stepmother. Me and my stepmother did not get along. When I say didn't get along, I wasn't raised to be disrespectful, nor was she a disrespectful person. It was that silent, unspoken, weird-ass energy that was going on between me and her. That what I told y'all about my mother is that, like, CJ, you won't understand it now, but you'll understand it later on, son. She's not your mom. She's not your mother. She's not gonna love you the way I do. So I used to just wonder, like, bro, you really just saying this because you don't like her? But come to find out, my mom was telling the truth. So when I left the house the first time, like I said, I went to go stay at Huntsville. I had no business out there. But again, I wanted to leave the house because of my stepmom. I didn't want to be there. I do believe that me and my dad would have had a closer relationship if it wasn't for her. But everything happens for a reason. And I don't think for 1 second that I would want any other family that I would like to be a part of outside of my stepmother's family. I feel like it's the perfect fit. So when I went to Huntsville and I was in a interracial relationship, she was white, I was, black, obviously, and it didn't work out. I didn't have my life together. Again, I left my parents' house because, for one, I knew that I could survive outside of my parents' houses because of just the way I handled myself, the way I conducted myself. I knew that I wouldn't be a dread on society, so to speak. All I knew is, like, get a job, be faithful to my girlfriend. Hopefully we can make it to marriage. So that didn't work out. She gave me the first experience of of not being wanted somewhere. And it was real heartbreaking. And I ended up going back home. And when I went back home, I got into another relationship with a white girl that me and her shared a lot in common because of the hometown, homegrown experience that we shared. We knew the teachers, we knew people, we knew families, we knew everybody in this community. So it made it easier on us to kind of have a relationship where we didn't have to really get to know each other like me and the other girl did. And that was part of my personality, was that I'm the black guy that's not the black guy. I don't dress like it. I could talk like it, but that's just the way I talk. So that's the way I started to be viewed by, you might be like, why are you with white people? Because these were the people that, in my community, they were the ones that were available, so to speak. So, and it's not like I'm taking anything that was thrown at me, but a lot of the black girls and stuff like that, they were already in relationships, pregnant, whatever the case may be. So when I ended up dating this girl, I was slowly starting to move into her apartment because me and my brother, we had got a job, and after work we was always going to go hang out with them at their apartment. My brother liked one of the girls or whatever, but the other girl, Samantha, me and her ended up started dating. And when we started dating, she moved back to her mom's house. I helped her move back. And we started dating and living in her parents' house. She had a stepdad named Donnie who died during COVID. And I really do think that bad things happen to people that bother me like that. Now, for some reason, if it's skipping y'all, forgive me, because I got Snapchat and all this other junk on the phone. So it may be skippy and all that other stuff. But why do I have do not disturb? Anyway, her family took a liking to me. Again, I was the model black guy that, you know, they did not think exists. They thought every black guy was, you know, you already know. But I wasn't like that. So immediately I tried to get a job, tried to, you know, do things right this time around. And unfortunately, me and this chick, man, we just had way too many problems. Like when it came to some of the more, I don't really know the word for it, but it wasn't things that were supposed to be a problem. Like, for example, I back then would say a lot of things out loud. I still do it to this day, and notice that it is a weakness of mine. It is a point of immaturity of mine. Even the guy at work, just a side note, George, that little 19-year-old I told y'all, he comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, Charles, I just want to tell you, man, good job yesterday. I appreciate you staying." And I looked at him and was like, "Nah, bro, that shit was horrible." And he's had a smile on his face, and I was like, "Yeah, bro, I already know what you getting at, but I'm disappointed in myself based off of my behavior last night. I don't like that." So he was like, "Well, at least you know, you can at least start to make the change there." He throws around a lot of cliche sayings, but his intent behind what he's saying is not like somebody else's. You know, he really does have a positive outlook on life. So I, decided to just be completely honest and let him know, "Bro, I don't want your brownie points because I already grade myself every day. When I get irritated at the end of the night like that, I start like kind of throwing shit a little bit and talking shit and all of that. I gotta cut that shit out, bro. That's something about my personality I don't like. Because I can't afford it. I'm not like everybody else that can do these things and then show up to work the next day and everybody say, 'Yeah, man, we had a good day.' I'll show up to work and they'll be like, 'What happened last night, Charles?' What do you mean what happened? They said you were throwing stuff." And I'll be like, "That was 2 items. How did you... That was a piece of cheese and a little piece of pepperoni I threw back in the bin. I did do it aggressively, but are you serious?" So those are the I can't afford it. So, me and her, we got into it over just small petty things. I never had to worry about being cheated on and stuff like that because I was just an entertaining boyfriend. I was, well-rounded in all areas, sexually, mentally, somebody to talk to, somebody to help you solve problems, all these different things. I'm looking at bugs getting in here. I don't know how they getting in here. I don't know if those are gnats. If those are gnats, it's gonna be easy to kill. But no, those are ants. How they getting in here? I don't know. I don't care. So that relationship didn't last long. Or it did. It lasted, long. And for me, it was about a year and some change. And we had to break it off because of the violence. She would get mad and she got to the point where she knew she couldn't beat me with her words. So everything began to get physical. She just started displaying a lot of what I consider nowadays like manifesting, like something inside of you is manifesting itself to where we can't move forward. We're not compatible with each other. And I think a lot of it is my fault. A lot of it is my fault because I've never had a car of my own. I've never had enough money to say, I can help you with this, that, and the third. So I do think a lot of my relationships, all 2 of them, were cut short because of my lack of preparation. I'm always honest because the truth is what interests me. So, me and her ended up breaking up. I moved everything back into my dad's house, but it wasn't long after that. Like, I had started working on trying to leave the house for good because me and my stepmother, we had an incident where she said something and I was like, in my mind, I kept telling myself, like, bro, it's going to get bad. It's going to get to the point she's going to say something and I'm getting older and more confident in what I believe in, as far as you need to stop treating me the way you treat me, that it's gonna blow up. And this was right before. So at this point in my life, man, I have had 2 girlfriends. I have had jobs, I think 2 jobs at this point, that I have failed miserably because of my health. When I make the reference to being the runt of the litter, I mean that if you ever seen a dog or a cat, that's the skinnier, weaker one. That's how I was. Couldn't do the long hours, man. Couldn't do them 12-hour shifts and all that shit that my dad wanted me to do, to show on the outside that I'm a man, that I'm working 12-hour days, with 2 paychecks I can get a car and all of that. Nah, man, I didn't have with the headaches, the meds. At this point, I was taking migraine relief. Didn't know anything else to take. I then moved on, when I got back to my dad's, to like self-experimenting real bad. Started just like not even counting the pills, but the headaches would get so bad where I would just open the bottle and just shove as much as I could. Not as much as I could, but I remember at one point I had 8 pills in my mouth. And I just started chewing them and, swallowing them, and I was just tearing up my immune system and my digestive system, to the point where even my dad and everybody started noticing, like, I'm losing weight. I'm losing hair. Like, my hair started getting so thin, my teeth started falling out, not like literally falling out, but they were just breaking off, and it was bad, man. It was bad. It made me always drowsy, and I told y'all, when you already struggling with people thinking you mad all the time, and people thinking there's a man, the last thing you need is to be walking around walking around not having enough rest, because now you got this look on your face like, there may not be nothing wrong with me, but this is the look, because you're tired. You're dragging yourself through the day. Instead of like this, bush-eyed, wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, it's like this. So people be like, smile, CJ. There's nothing wrong with me. When I say there's nothing wrong with me, there's nothing causing me to, like, when something really bothers you, your face is going to be, there's nothing bothering me. I just have a serious face. So, when you're struggling with all those type of things, on top of your health not being, in great shape, you're also learning about conspiracy theories and different things that are ran on the masses. Man, it caused me to just be very quiet all the time, very mindful of my physical state, meaning like certain knots and all these. My body just started suffering. And when I left the house for the 3rd time and the final time, it was under the, and I told y'all, I had one friend my entire life, one, and he lived behind us. His name was Terrell. I told y'all about this guy. He was a kid's kid, just like me. I would go to his house. I did it so much that even his parents had to be like, y'all just hang around each other way too much. And as a kid, even I understood, like, y'all don't know what friends are? Y'all don't understand what compatibility means? Okay. So even his parents started, like, making certain suggestions that we shouldn't hang out all the time, because we enjoyed each other's company. He could be himself around me, I could be myself around him. So he became my best friend. Even he understood, man, CJ, why everybody always asking me what's wrong with you? Nigga, I don't know. And I'm like, yeah, bro, that's just how it is, bro. People think because you always around me that you'll know what's wrong with me on, every day. And that's not true. And he'd be like, there's nothing even wrong with you. So he understood I was never angry, mad, or anything like that. So I thought. And so when we became adults, he went to Houston to do his thing because he went to the Art Institute, in which he was screwed out of that opportunity based off of how his sister treated him, which ended up being somebody that I ended up living with and experiencing just how insane this chick is in their family. So he starts the Art Institute. He's living with his sister, and one day she tells him, hey, make sure you get my son up for school. Make sure he gets on the bus for school. Terrell's like, all right, cool. Well, Terrell stays up all night, kind of like I do now. And he wakes up, goes in the room at like 6 o'clock, and his nephew's still there. And he's like, bro, why aren't you on the bus? So she gets mad, and she kicks him out because of that. His schooling and all of that shit was over. So he had to come back home as well for a little bit, and then he ended up coming back. He ended up, going back to Houston. But when he ended up going back to Houston, he ended up living with his sister and stuff like that. I had already, I had a job at Subway in the town. Everything seemed to be going okay. I'm still self-experimenting with the meds. And me and my older brother, we are, my brother is crazy that my brother had an opportunity to have an individual relationship with all of his brothers. My brother was never the guy that was like, I'm too old to be hanging with y'all. Man, my brother be hanging with kids. You like, why the hell are you hanging with them? But my brother is just, he has that spirit about him that people just want to be around him, So with me and my brother, we would go play basketball. I learned to play basketball. I didn't know a damn thing about basketball. I didn't know how to dribble or nothing. So I had to learn how to play basketball on my own in Huntsville. I grew an interest for it. So when I came back home, I was going to go play with my brother over at the church. We would go hoop at a church and stuff like that. I didn't do that for long because I'm very competitive. And when you got guys up there that don't care about winning, they just want to shoot the ball from half court, run ISO and all of that. I couldn't do it. I stopped going because I told my brother I'm end up fighting somebody. And my dad was like, man, you take it too serious, man. People up there trying to just get some exercise in. And I'm like, well, I don't need to go because I'm trying to win. So I quit going. And when I left the house, it was right before COVID. Me and my friend, I was always searching for what it was about myself that made me an underachiever. So that about my spirit on top of meditation. The first time I meditated, I cried. And what it was completely letting go of everything, letting go of the headaches, letting go of the job, letting go of every single thing that you think about throughout the day, and you just let it go. In your mind, you basically convincing yourself that you have no responsibilities. And once you open up your spirit like that, and God pours his spirit into you, man, some wild shit ended up happening in my life, man, that just took it to another level. I noticed it, and I say to this day, I think that God, that was the trade-off. It's like, bro, don't worry about this high school shit. Don't worry about your family. Don't worry about none of that. I'm working on something inside of you. Something that you'll know it means something. Something you won't be embarrassed about. Something you won't be ashamed about. None of that. You'll be confident. You'll be fearless. You'll be self-motivated. You'll have a plan. You'll be calm under pressure. And that's exactly what happened. I started getting into situations that in real time, it felt like I had all day to answer the question, all day to figure out the problem. And it was only in a matter of seconds. I became very self-aware. Any female I started talking to, I was letting them know, like, I'm not having sex with you unless we are married. You know, a lot of the clothes y'all are wearing, the behaviors y'all are wearing, I was on full military mode. To the point where I had females like, oh, I don't believe that my son can't be taught about the LGBTQ community. It was some fine ass female, and she was like, well, I think my son should know about it. And I was like, yeah, this ain't gonna work. This ain't gonna work. You're psychotic. If I tell her, hey man, you know, if I have kids with you, they not getting no VAXX. I know too much. Well, I think that they should. We don't need to talk. I'm not gonna butt heads with somebody that I know I'm right. I don't debate with people because I know I'm right. Oh, that sounds I mean, I don't give a fuck what you call it. I don't debate with people because most people today, if I tried debating in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, hell, even the 80s, somebody could debate me. But today, people don't know nothing. Most people I come across don't know shit. They're easily convinced to think one thing and then stop thinking that and think something else based off of who they talking to. I don't roll like that. What I know is shit that I can talk about at any time, any place, around anybody. I could be vulgar. I could be, you know, articulate. I can use profanity. I don't have to use profanity. But I talk about shit up with substance. And I'm solution based. I don't just talk in circles. I try to arrive at a point in which we can solve the problem. Most females don't like that either. They want you to sit there and, girl, what? Huh? Man, girl, you should, hey, but you right though. You did, hey, facts. Yeah, facts. And the female, at some point, she's gonna recognize, like, bro, when are you ever gonna correct me? You mean to tell me as your girlfriend, I'm always right? So, at this point in my life, I have a concrete foundation on what I believe in. I'm having a lot of health problems. Again, the migraines, the body aches. I felt like an old man in a young man's body. And I didn't know why. I didn't know. I was also listening to Alex Jones every day. I was around during his whole, when they booted his ass off of YouTube. I remember when that happened and was like, whoa, you know. Obviously, I've you know, I've matured in that area since and understood why they did that. But I leave the house for the last final time. I remember I had a conversation with my buddy. And I said, hey man, I don't know what it is about my personality or anything, but how do you do it? How do you survive at these jobs? How do you, you know, get through bored moments and stuff? Yeah, the guy that thought he knew everything. I was really wanting to know how to fix things about myself that I knew were going to be a detriment later. So he was like, man, you just got to be, bro. You just got to be. Don't try to do this and that. Just take care of what's in front of you, bro. Coming from him, I was like, yeah, you know, you're right. You're right, bro. You're right. So having those talks with him, we were having those talks over the headset. You know, we used to always want to play Grand Theft Auto together online and be on teams and stuff like that. His nephew was always around him because his nephew was weird as hell. So him and Terrell, nephew and uncle, they had almost like a buddy relationship. So I told Terrell, you know, hey man, I think we could try to get an apartment together. We could do this because Every time I left the house while he was out here in Houston, we were damn near going through the same thing, identical. Just living two different lives. I was like, man, what you go to jail for? Oh, assault and theft? Me too. Hey man, what happened when you was in jail? And you know, his stories lined up with mine. A lot of his relationship problems lined up with mine. And I was like, damn, this is weird, bro. Like, we going through damn near the same shit. And we not even around each other. We didn't call each other. We were real best friends, meaning go off and do your thing, my nigga. I'll get that feeling on the inside if I know something wrong with you. If I know I need to call you, reach out, you know? So when I made the decision, this was like maybe a month or two before COVID. And my dad was in the room. My dad was sick. He was in the bed. He was real sick. And I walked in there and I said, hey, Dad, look, I was meditating and everything. See, my dad, one of our last arguments was him getting mad at me because I had no emotion. My dad became very emotional to the point where it was like, it was very undesirable as his son to see him behave like that, yelling and hollering and screaming and carrying on like a female. I started to really think less and less of my dad, more and more that we talked. And he got mad because he was like, look, you don't care about nothing. And at this point, I told y'all, I had already meditated and started receiving that the reward from God, which is a cool, calm spirit. A spirit that you know what the fuck is going on. A spirit that you know ain't nothing wrong with you, but it's something wrong with the world. A spirit that you know you're not out here trying to do harm to people, but you understand that what you know, the things you know, are lethal. And if you say it, people are going to get afraid. People are going to get nervous. People are going to start to think that you've lost your mind. People are going to think that you think you're better than everybody. All of that shit. I wasn't no Bible read nigga. But I know in that motherfucker it say something like, bro, if you really about that Christian shit, you are going to be mistreated. You are going to be lied on. You will be misunderstood. That comes with the territory if you really think that you one of these righteous motherfuckers. And how many times have y'all heard me say, I am a spiritual, righteous person. I'm not religious. Nigga asks me, are you a Christian? I'm going to tell him, man, I'm probably the closest thing to a real Christian. What make you a Christian? Man, the fact that I've told people and I've told myself, I know what to do to get out of this situation. I don't need a handout. I just need an opportunity. Get a job, make my own money, save my own money. I know how to get an apartment. I know how to get a car. Anyway, when I told my buddy that, his sister, she worked at the bank in my little old small town. She worked at the bank, okay? Lived all the way in Sugar Land, right? But then came to my, just how weird is that? So she comes in every now and again. She's, hey, cousin, hey, hi, hey. And we chit-chat and stuff like that. And she, based off of my personality, I do believe she was attracted to me, But she also heard what I would tell her just based off of our little interaction when I was making her food. And she was like, well, why don't you come out and, you can live out, with me and Terrell, because it ain't no opportunities out here. And I agreed. I accepted. And I went back home and I told my dad, hey, Dad, I will be going to Sugar Land. I got a plan. I do think this is the last and final time I will ever have to, leave the house and not come back. So my dad was like, all right, son, well, I'm proud of you. I'm praying for you. I'm just wishing you luck. Again, this man, it was like November something, and he was in the bed sick as a dog. So I pack up. The friend I told y'all, Seth, the white boy, he helped me move, and drove me all the way to Sugarland. We get to Sugarland, and I'm so tired of this shit. This fan done probably taken 5 death drops since oh God, whatever. He takes me to Terrell's sister's house. I go inside or whatever, and right away I start to notice that his nephew basically hangs out in the room with him during the day, or really all day. He got his chair in there, he got another TV in the corner, and so on and so forth. So I told y'all I have never been a proponent of letting kids smoke weed around me. You can smoke, but I'm not gonna be the one offering it to you. So I told Terrell, like, yo man, like, there's really nowhere for me to chill in here. This little nigga gonna have to get his shit up out of here. So of course, start getting his shit up out of there, and he comes home from school and he notices all of his stuff has been moved. So this was his first sign of, mama, my stuff, they moved my stuff. And so his sister, of course, was like, I kind of see the problem with it, but since she didn't really know about my personality at this point, so she saw it for what it was supposed to be, was like, Terry, they grown ass men. You need to find you some friends. You don't need to be in there with them. So on and so forth, right? So I have now created an atmosphere that I have used this phrase in the past, is like, you know that feeling when your dad's home? You can act a fool all day, but when dad get home, dad don't have to get violent and yell, holler, and scream, but your dad sets a tone that, okay, man, we got to quit running and jumping and doing all this crazy ass shit. Dad's home now. And that was the feeling that I gave them. I didn't ask. I didn't try. I didn't want it. But that's the feeling they felt like, oh, shit. It's somebody in the house now that got some sense. So a lot of what his sister was doing was just downright disgusting. Okay? That's why I told y'all about how I grew up with my mama. I grew up with my mom calling me, all right, nigga. You gonna end up like, it wasn't on a scale like Terrell's sister was, but it was enough, you know, to say, like, you're not supposed to be talking to kids like that, you know? And so I had to witness and experience that all over again, living with Terrell's sister. And what she didn't like the fact that I found it to be distasteful. And did I tell her that I didn't like it? No. All I would do is just, like, have a look on my face. I wouldn't even have a look. It was an energy that I had carried in that house that was like, you know, before I came there, you and Terrell would just sit there and just laugh and giggle, and you would be able to call, yeah, stupid dumb ass motherfucking dumb bitch, say all of this stuff about your son, and Terrell would just sit there, because they started to accept that it's just, that's how black folk are. This is how we talk to our kids. We call them dumb, stupid, idiots, and all these other derogatory names, and we wonder why they end up bugged the fuck out. And so Tarek, that was her son's name, he would come in the room, he would listen to how I talked about certain things and spoke on certain things, and he became a big fan. He was like, man, I love the way you think, man. I wish I had your common sense, and I wish I thought like you did. And I'm like, bro, I appreciate it and shit like that, But I don't want nobody to wish they was like me, bro. Because you're not going to have friends. You're going to live a lonely life. And you're going to spend a lot of your life trying to convince people that you're not angry, you're not mad, that there's nothing wrong with you. And that's a tiring life to live, my nigga. I don't want you to live like that. But he understood. His uncle sitting there all day playing video games, never said the type of shit that I would say. Cause he wasn't, again, I just don't think it was his destiny to be that type of thinker, and that's why I don't want to say that, or the way I think, if you don't think like that, then you just dumb. No, it's just everybody's not meant to have that level of understanding. With great power comes great responsibility. So I was always aware that I could say certain things to make or break somebody. I could say certain things that then will have to, force me to, backtrack and, I didn't mean it like that. No, I understand the power of my words. So, his sister started to feel that vibe in the house of all the guys want to be in there with CJ. Not in there with me, but we were just getting along. And it started to make her like a little envious. Like, man, why everybody want to be in there? Because she was used to Terrell coming in there watching movies, and she can go in Terrell's room and do all of that. But when I was there, it was just cool, calm, and collected. Everybody was chilling and stuff like that, and she just started to feel like she wasn't the center of attention no more, or she couldn't demand the attention of the room like she could before I got there. None of this shit was something that I was like, oh yeah, I'm trying to make her feel like that. No, I didn't want to make her feel uncomfortable in her own house. I didn't want her to feel like somebody was stopping her from living how she want to live. If you want to call your son dumb bitch and all of that, be my guest. I don't care. But I'm not going to sit here and nod my head and giggle and laugh and shit because I know this stuff is not funny. It's literally not funny, and it's psychologically not funny to be talking to a kid like this. I gotta wash some clothes, y'all. I'm trying to figure out, I don't want to have to come to work with a big old sack of clothes, even though there is somebody up there that does that. Damn, I might have to do this. I might have to, y'all. I hope she not up there and be like, what the hell you doing, boy, with them clothes, man? I gotta wash. Ooh, I gotta wash to save some money. But, this entire experience, I came out there under the pretext that I would find a job. Me and Terrell would save up, so on and so forth. And I told y'all about my Uncle Pat. My Uncle Pat was one of those guys, man, in the family that he quit going to church, and he became one of my biggest supporters in my family. Yeah, the guy that didn't go to church, he stopped going. He was an advocate. He went all the time, but when he got bit by a spider, and he had to have surgery, and he was basically bedbound for a while, and he quit going to church. So a lot of times my dad would go over there because they live right behind us. And my dad and him would work on trucks together and shit. And my dad would share certain things to him about me. And my Uncle Pat told me, was like, CJ, I see how you move around, bro. Your dad just wants this type of life for you. And he see that you're not, producing anything like that. I just want to let you know, like, I do talk to your dad and try to, because his son, Pat, at this point, in Uncle Pat's life, his son committed suicide. Came home one day, found him hung up in the barn. So Uncle Pat was very, very compassionate when it came to how my dad and how, other people and how they should treat their kids, because he didn't have a son. His son was gone. And so he was the one that gave me my first vehicle. He was like, how much money you got on you now? And I told him how much money I had. And he was like, all right, well, look, we can work out a deal. Give me what you got now. It was a Honda CRV. So every day, I actually ended up buying a vehicle from one of my classmates, her husband at the time. I bought a vehicle from them, and it just needed so much work. I was ordering parts. I was doing everything I needed to do. Once again, I'm a kid that I'm wanting my dad's acceptance. I'm wanting to do things to make my dad proud. So that truck took so long that he ended up telling me, like, hey man, I'm trying to put a shed over there. I'm gonna need you to move that shit out the way. And I ended up having to tow it away. I didn't have no hard feelings about it, because I couldn't fix it or anything like that. So I had to get it off the property so Dad could build some other shit. And but the second car was the Honda CRV, and like I said, that was the car that I was supposed to fix up and take over to Terrell's sister's house, and me and him would have our own cars and stuff. It didn't happen like that. My younger brother ended up growing up, and he needed a car, so I gave it to him. I said, man, look, you can have it, bro. I can't do shit with it. So my little brother ended up having my first car, or second car, whatever you want to call it. And I was out, Terrell had a car. He had a Honda, Kia Forte, sorry. So at this point, me and him were in Sugar Land. He has a job over at the Taco Bell, and it was already established that I was supposed to just basically walk right in and start working. But when COVID happened, that shut everything down. Applications, job hirings, and all of that shit. His sister was somebody that kept asking me over and over and over, hey, you got your car fixed? Hey, you found a job yet? And I was always open to talk, but I'm a man of action. I'm not always gonna run up to you and, hey, I found a job. Hey, I got a interview. I'm a man of action. I'm waiting to make it happen so that I can then say, yeah, man, I got a job. I'm good to go. What bothered her was the fact that I did not want to share shit with her. I didn't care to. You could come ask me, but I didn't care to like run up to you and hey. I just put in an app today. No, that's not how I am. I'm a man of action, and if I ain't got no action, then I'm not talking. That's how I am. So, I ended up telling her, like, like she was telling Terrell, like, hey, he's not communicating with me. Do you know what's going on with him? So on and so forth. And Terrell was like, there's nothing wrong with him. He, that's just how he is. Blah, blah, blah. So his sister was just like, I don't like it. Because what she wanted was a guy that she could just do whatever she wanted to do with. She even tried me at one point by, like, I was talking to Terrell, and I'm looking directly in Terrell's eyes. And she comes and tries to sit on my lap while I'm talking. And I mean, I jumped up so damn quick, was like, hey, you don't see me talking? And that pissed her off. When she knew, like a little kid, she couldn't just come and do some shit and I'ma just lose all track of what I'm talking about. So like a kid, she got up and was like, Terrell, I don't want him living here no more. You see what I'm saying? Y'all see what I'm saying? You can't get your way. You can't use and abuse and had me all confused. So now you don't want me living there. I don't want him living here, even though you the one that invited me. I told y'all my health was so bad, I couldn't even, I'll be trying to get a nap in at 2:30. Just always tired. So I would go in the living room where she said I had, I had that was where I was gonna sleep. And trying to make sure I got everything, y'all, before I leave. And I would be in there asleep or whatever. And so now all of a sudden she telling Terrell, I want my living room back. Like, nigga, you the one that told me I could sleep here, and you're never in here. You're trying to find any and every little thing that upsets you, that you think is abnormal, so that you can have grounds to kick me out or whatever. Now she's trying to, the man that would raise their hand and beat this bitch ass is starting to show. And Terrell told me, like, bro, I have fought my sister before. She's going to try you. He kept saying that, like, she's going to try you, bro. He was like, the fact that you be cool, calm, and collected, she don't like that shit. She wants you to get loud. I was like, damn, bro, you serious? Like, that bitch mentally retarded. He's like, man, I'm telling you, bro, like, when she try you, I'll try to tell her to chill out. But, like, she really don't have no off switch, bro, until you engage with her. He was like, that's how we get into it every time. It's like, I don't be worried about it because I know I can kick her ass. And he was like, she just gonna keep going till you get violent with her. And I would just tell him, like, bro, I don't need to be around somebody like that, my nigga, for real. So she did try me at one point. She got all up in my face, and I just sat there like I was packing my clothes, getting my clothes and shit. Because she ended up telling me, like, you need to go. You need to call your daddy, ask him, can you come back? I even called my dad just to shut her up. And my dad kind of got mad. My dad was like, man, I ain't trying to see you back here at the crib, bro. And I was like, Dad, look, I'm doing this shit just because she told me, like, I'm basically doing this so that I don't have to hurt her, dude. Like, I'm not doing this shit because I just, at the first sign of something going wrong, I want to run back home. Nah, bro, I'm doing this shit because before I kick her ass, I want to know that I did what she asked me to do. So, I get off the phone with my dad. Everything that has to do with an apartment, it seems impossible. Like, how am I gonna have money, or me and Terrell gonna have money to make down payments and all of this shit? So, because of the headaches, a lot of nights I would just be up on Facebook, digging, doing certain research on my head. When the stimulus checks and shit was coming out, I was excited because I've never had that much money. And the first thing I could think of was, man, now I finally get to have the money to find out what's wrong with me, to fix a lot of these problems.